Jones to Butler to Town.
Oh, don't look at him. Don't look at him like that. Oh, I see you. Yeah, barbecue chicken. Barbecue chicken. I see you.
There's a few times we've actually had barbecue chicken.
G'day guys, Crazy here with another NBA season preview. This time we're looking at the Minnesota Timberwolves. Hopes were very high last pre-season for the Wolves after recently acquiring Jimmy Butler from the Chicago Bulls and signing Jeff Teague from Atlanta. This gave them a pretty menacing starting five, and some experts have them finishing very high in the Western Conference, potentially pushing for the conference finals. At times they looked like they were going to be a force, but they never really put it together to challenge the top teams. Ultimately, they finished with a 47-35 record and were bounced in the first round of the playoffs in 5 games. This would have made Tom Thibodeau very mad. Thibs is the maddest man in the NBA, and he's actually the current favourite to be the first NBA coach to literally explode during a game. What will happen with this team in 2018-19? The Wolves' projected starting five heading into the season features Andrew Wiggins, Jeff Teague, Taj Gibson, Jimmy Butler and Karl Anthony Towns. That's a pretty solid starting five, and we'll have a look at what they did last year. Big Karl Anthony Towns qualified for his first All-Star game, making an appearance in all 82 games for the Wolves, putting up 21.3 points, 12.3 rebounds, nearly 1.5 blocks per game. The stunning stat for me for Big Cat last year was knocking down his threes at 42%. The big fella has added a 3-point shot, and he's pretty much the epitome of the modern big man. He can really stretch that floor. His field goal percentage overall being a whopping 54.5%. He was well and truly deserving of his first All-Star appearance. I feel at times Big Cat could really take over games, and sometimes I find he maybe fades a little bit and maybe starts to rely on that shot a bit too much. I'd like to see him post up people a bit more, because I don't think anyone can handle him. Jimmy Butler joined Big Cat at the All-Star game, despite the fact that he didn't actually play in it. In a rather bizarre decision, Jimmy actually sat out the All-Star game, citing that he needed some rest heading into the second half of the season. I can't think of too many healthy players that have sat out an All-Star game, and I found that quite bizarre. Jimmy definitely deserved to be at the All-Star game, putting up 22.2 points per game, 5.3 rebounds, 4.9 assists, and a shade under 2 steals per contest. Jimmy got off to a pretty slow start with the Wolves last season, but he quickly settled in. He's one of the premier two-way players in the game, and he plays the game as hard as anybody. Jimmy has questioned the hard play of some of his younger teammates, and he expects a lot more out of them. This is starting to cause a little bit of conflict amongst the Wolves, and we'll see how this plays out. Andrew Wiggins entered what seems to be his 27th season in the league. I seriously feel like this guy has been around forever. He put up another solid, if not spectacular, season for the Wolves. He managed to appear in all 82 games, putting up 17.7 points, 4.4 rebounds, but only a disappointing 2 assists per game, and Big Andrew can be a real liability on the defensive end. He's made numerous low-light reels with some very lackadaisical defense, and he seems to lose concentration quite quickly. It really surprises me for a guy as athletic as him to not be able to lock down defenders. I've always thought he was going to be a pretty handy two-way player, but he can be a real problem on the defensive end at times. Also, 33% on his three. At his size and his position, the 3-point shot is becoming very, very big. And if he can't improve that 3-point shot, he could be a bit of a liability for this team. I feel he needs a big breakout year. He's getting paid some big money, and I think he really needs a big season to justify it. The big three of the Wolves are joined by 2 very serviceable, hard-working veterans. Jeff Teague coming off a season of 14 points, 7 assists and nearly 1.5 steals per game, and knocking down his threes at 37%. Jeff isn't anything spectacular, but he is a rock-solid point guard who makes very few mistakes, He's also a pretty solid defender as well, and he plays hard, and he probably suits the Tom Thibodeau style quite well. No one suits the style better than Taj Gibson. Big Taj suited up for all 82 games, putting up 12 points and 7 rebounds. A very efficient player, scoring his points at 57.7% from the field. Big Taj knows his limitations and he sticks close to the basket. He can be a real force on the offensive boards, and he plays as hard as anyone in the league. You know what you're going to get from Taj, and he delivers pretty much every night. The bench is probably spearheaded by comeback player Derrick Rose. Derrick was signed last season after being cut by the Cavaliers, which never really worked out or suited him at all. Tom Thibodeau was very happy to be reacquainted with his ex-MVP of the league, and Derrick wound back the clock. He was actually one of the more efficient players in the playoffs for them, and he actually took over a couple of games, and for a moment there he actually looked like vintage D Rose. D Rose actually put up 14 points per game in that playoff series, and they would love to get that sort of scoring from him on the regular basis this year. The rest of the bench is a little bit limited. You've got Gorgie Deng, who's a rock-solid backup at centre position, Anthony Tolliver, who seemed to be quite wanted in the free agency period due to his ability to knock down them threes. We've got Keita Bates-Diop, we've got CJ Williams, Josh Okogie, and Tyus Jones rounding out that bench as time of recording. That bench isn't going to put a lot of fear into anybody, and without Jamal Crawford, who at time of recording was still a free agent and didn't look like he's returning, I wonder where the points come from when any of the big three go to the bench. They do play quite a slow style for Wolves, and if they haven't got someone who can create their own shot or get some baskets for them, I feel that points could dry up and that could be a problem. I feel they need to maybe invest in another scorer off that bench, just so that they can take the pressure off of the big three, so that they don't play too many minutes. Thibs has his players play hard all the time, and there are always fears that they could be driven into the ground and not fresh enough for the playoffs. So where do I think the 2018-19 Wolves finish up? I don't think they've quite got enough talent overall to challenge for the top 4, but I think they finish anywhere from the 5 to 8 seed. I think they will be in the playoffs. If they can put it all together, maybe pick up somebody at the trade deadline to give them some more firepower and some more offense off that bench, I think they could be a very dangerous team. But I'm a bit worried about the off-court issues with Jimmy Butler calling out some of his younger teammates. This could backfire. I don't see players like Cat and Andrew Wiggins enjoying being yelled at by Thibs all day. Seriously, Thibs, can you calm down, man? Because you may very well explode. What do you think, guys? Where do you think the 2018-19 Wolves finish up? I would love to hear from you in the comments. If you enjoyed that video, guys, feel free to give that one a thumbs up. Don't be afraid to hit that subscribe button. If there's a team or a player you would like to see featured on my channel, feel free to pop it in the comments and I'll do my best.